The start of the 1985 Esso Scottish Rally Championship, and heading the field of the Snowman Rally, George Marshall.
I think there's half a dozen could win this event today, especially it being more open with slippy conditions and ice. I think you could just about say anyone in the top 10 really.
So after 2 seasons on the British Series, Marshall was back on home ground for the start of the Esso National Championship. And straight away he was in action on the Odd Hill stage just outside Inverness. But challenging in second place the Opel Ascona of Tom Muir. And back with his revitalised Vauxhall Chevette, Alistair Brearley. In another Chevette, and anxious to put behind him a less than successful 1984 season, Robin Christie, with Wilson Girvan in the Toyota Celica. Dougie Rioch was at the wheel of a Sunbeam Lotus for the event in which he came second last year, and Ivor Clark was as exuberant as ever in a BRM-powered Sunbeam, with Murray Grierson also in the top 10 starters. Getting the most from the diminutive Vauxhall Nova, Colin Aitchison. And providing plenty of action for the spectators, George Gillespie. Harry Roger took to the immaculate Sunbeam, already minus its rear window, with Colin Valentine in another Samba. And in his new Toyota Corolla, David MacDonald, with former champion Donald Hegge's Escort in the hands of Gordon Smith, while the ageing Escort of the Flying Dr. John Shirley showed no signs of failing. Alistair Smith followed in another Escort with Alistair Fletcher at number 18. Jim Fleming had worked on his Opel Manta over the winter, and completing the top 20, John Allen from Oban. David Galanders from Aberdeen was in his first run in the 350 horsepower Volvo Turbo, as Stuart Robertson from Dalbeattie and Neil McRitchie made their way round the Odd Hill stage. The leaders were already on to the second stage through the Menochty Forest, and the sun and dust belied the treacherous conditions of the forest tracks. Alistair Brearley was chasing hard, and Robin Christie was having a good run too. Wilson Girvan was having problems with a bad bend in the steering, while Dougie Rioch's Sunbeam had started to misfire, but he ploughed on regardless. And keeping up the pressure, Ivor Clark and Murray Grierson. George Gillespie took the slippery bends in his stride, and the front-wheel drive of the Nova kept Aitchison going. There were ignition problems too for Harry Roger. But the sunshine and dust of Menochty weren't to be continued for the rest of the 160-mile event through the forests of northeast Scotland. Deep snow greeted the cars on the third stage, White Ash, and the pace slowed considerably as the crews battled to keep their grip in conditions which gave the event its name. George Marshall had lost his lead to Alistair Brearley, and the conditions were to blame.
Well, they were saying there was, on the second stage, was it? They said there was dust. Tom Muir said there was dust, but I don't know how dusty it was.
It was pretty bad.
How's
the car?
Oh, perfect.
Good.
Perfect, no problem.
You going to be able to pull anything back in the last couple?
We'll pull a bit back, I hope, but we'll pull enough back.
Right, okay. Right, see you later.
See you then. Ta-ra.
He'd had a wild time, hindered by the wrong tyres, and it hadn't been easy for Brearley either.
It went off, damaged the front arm and the steering rack and everything, which the boys have now changed.
Right.
And they've also went off backwards out through a gate, which we've got the other side, so there's not a lot left to hit.
Things were about to end for Robin Christie, sliding off on the 5th stage, and Murray Grierson hit a deer, but still finished 9th. The championship was wide open for the first time for several years, with the disappearance of the top names from the past. Some had retired from the sport, and twice champion Ken Wood had decided to concentrate on the British Championship, all of which gave the Esso Scottish Championship and the season opener a fresh appeal to the less experienced drivers. And it was proving to be a close event for Wilson Girvan.
The snow tyres and white ash, and within a mile we caught up Colin Aitchison, and I thought we would fly past him, but that front wheel drive was sure was going, and we caught up with Gordon Smith in that stage as well, so we all had the same time when we came out.
Yeah.
And the next stage I had a spin, and I still caught Gordon Smith by the end of the stage.
Right.
So the next stage we went off.
The snow was taking its toll, but proved an advantage to the lower powered cars, which found more grip once the top covering had been worn away. In the big Volvo, David Galanders was finding it a handful.
We're a bit worried about the head gasket, but they fixed that.
Right. Where do you think you're lying this time?
No, we got held up 2 stages ago. A guy spun in front of us and physically blocked the stage, so we would just sit there for about a minute. So
we saw you held up on the last stage.
yes. So we've quite a few people got held up en route, you know, because it's so big. You kind of pass things. You know, the old car you could maybe have a go, you know.
Just drive over them, David.
Well, I'll certainly try the next time. I'll tell you.
So you got 2 stages to go. You reckon,
Yes.
you reckon you're well in the top 10?
I think so, and the next 2 stages are dry,
Aye.
so we should be able to get the 300 horsepower rod down in the ground now.
Okay, sir. We'll see you in the next couple of stages. Thanks.
Righto, fine.
By the Newtile stage it was back onto firm ground, but it was too late for George Marshall, who had to settle for 3rd place. With a fine win and £1,000 as first Vauxhall, Alistair Brearley. But not everyone had such success, with a whole host falling foul of disabling punctures. But David MacDonald still won Group A. Colin Aitchison dropped to 30th overall after spinning on the 7th test. while Wilson Girvan had maximum penalties after further steering problems, but he still came in 8th. Overall in the old Heggie car, Gordon Smith. A spin and electrical problems dropped Jim Fleming to just outside the top 10, with Alistair Fletcher from Cymru just behind after booking early into time control. Ignition trouble sent Harry Roger down to 33rd overall, but Riech finished 5th in spite of a misfire. The best result ever for Dr. Shirley in 2nd place, and a full 7 minutes behind the leader in 20th position, Stuart Robertson. The Volvo had proved too big and powerful, and an unlucky 13th place for Galanders. While Ivor Clark was pushed down the field by a series of punctures. The conditions had taken their toll and had caught out many who'd made the wrong tyre choice. But the Esso Scottish Championship is a long and arduous one, and the weather can catch out even the most experienced. But for Alistair Brearley, it couldn't have got off to a better start.